So welcome back to today's episode of RamDragon's Studio. And this brush is definitely dying now. Wow. Today's prompt is catch. Pardon me, I did that right in the mic. And I'm thinking we're going to do a Pokemon here. Let's put the eye level right here. So we've got one eye going right over. And I think for this one I'm going to need a reference. I know a lot of you grew up watching Pokemon. And I was already out of high school when that came. So I didn't really grow up with it the same way as a lot of you. Played the card game once or twice. There we go, that's the reference I want. Whoops. And I should have done this the other way around. Let's box in the face first and then see where we want to put the ball. And Ash has a classic anime face, which is a circle with with a chin dropping off of it. But I've got to look at the reference to see what shape his chin is. He goes almost straight pointy. But his circle ends with his nose. So that puts his mouth right in his nose, apparently. And then he gets a sharp chin that goes down quite a ways farther. His face is really... There's something wrong with his proportions. And then his eyes... Now, he used a diamond to represent his nose because of the way that the shadow is usually represented. The image I'm looking at has his nose drawn like that, and that's all black, and then that's a shadow. So the overall shape of a diamond works well to represent his nose, to block it in. But I want to have kind of a look where he's looking up through his eyebrows. So I'm going to bring this diamond down so it looks more like Jasper from Steven Universe. And then he gets kind of a serious look. He's got a very pointy chin with a little bit of a roundy on the end there. And then his jawline comes straight off of his head. And it actually comes straight off right here. It comes up a little bit more. He's very, very angular jawed. There's a very good game theory. Matt Pat breaks down how old Ash Ketchum is. And I think it was last year he did the episode. And I believe he concluded that Ash is 14. He's definitely somewhere between 14 and 18, but more likely 14. His eyebrows are Dragon Ball. That's weird. Oh, man. It is one of those mornings. So Ash has very childlike features because he is quite young. So I'm going to round him out a little bit more right here. And bring his jaw... No, I'm going to bring his jaw up because I'm angling his face down, so that brings the point of his jaw well above the level of his nose. Normally it would be the point of his jaw would be in line with his mouth if he was straight on. But since I'm angling him down, I want that to be somewhere above the tip of his nose. So right here is a good place for it. And then he's got a very weird set of eyes. I mean, I've got to use my reference to do his eyes. They come right at the midpoint of his shadow here. And I know there are some Pokemon fans who are going to be completely incensed about how I represent Ash here. But actually, Ash and, the more I get into this drawing, Ash and Trunks from Dragon Ball Z really share a lot of features and similar. And then which way do his Z's go? Sorry about the sound effects, but anybody who's been in an art major knows one cannot draw without sound effects. And if they do draw without sound effects, they're completely untrustworthy. Try not to do sound effects on this channel because I mean, my face is right in the mic, and it would be very ASMR. And that's not what I do here. Quit turning off my reference. There we go. I'm going to bring his hat down. His hat comes right off the tips of his head, just above his eyebrows. It wraps around the brim, and it actually kind of comes up a little bit, so it doesn't follow his head. So since I'm angled down, I'm going to show that arc just barely. I don't want it to be a straight line. I want it to be a very slight arc. And then the brim comes down to just inside of his face. Yeah. And then the front of his brim follows the same arc as the back of his brim, just slightly less. I don't think I like that. It's going to cover up all of the expression there. I want the brim to come maybe right here. But since I still want it to look like Ash, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going off of a character reference, a screenshot from the TV show, rather than a reference sheet. But there are some things I still want to show. So there's that, and then his lock of hair. He's got a lock of hair in front of his face. And I am taking some liberties because that was the intent when I started. So he does have very Toriyama-esque ears. I wonder if Toriyama was involved in the design of these characters. I've never looked that up. And then his hairline actually comes from his ears here. I think next year, if I do Inktober, I'm going to do paintings Right, and the top of his hat goes way up here. And I know if I do this by memory, I'm going to get this logo backwards. I have to use the reference. Ooh, my voice is a little bit rough this morning. I don't know why. Yeah, I was. I was about to draw it backwards. Ah, boy. I drove trucks back in 2014. I was driving long haul. And my route was taking me coast to coast, one side of the country to the other side, and then back again. I was going from California to Boston to Oregon to Pennsylvania to, I was just back and forth and back and forth. And I got into the company logo swag of the trucking company I was working for. And he's got some detail on his brim I want to catch here. Not too much, it's just a seam. And I still have one of my old trucking hats, and I've got a shirt that have the company logo on them. But our company logo was nowhere near as cool as whatever that, what, A is, I guess? Let me completely show you my lack of manual dexterity and drop my pen. Now I've got to bring this into some of my style. So to finish up with Catch, he's just going to have some big old collars coming off of him. I mean, seriously, that could practically be Goku right now. Some differences in the nose, and that's about it. Bigger. Bigger! Well, rounder at least. No, I do want it bigger than that. Do I have a bigger round thing? I have enormously bigger round thing. I don't really have an appropriate sized round thing. I guess I'll have to freehand a big old circle. And I'll have to just get it close enough. Wait, does Cash have pupils? Cash? Ash. Ash Ketchum, does he have pupils? He does not, but he does have highlights. Because everybody has highlights in his eyes. How does he see? And we're going to go with a finger right here. And just like I tried to sketch out the first time, and then this is going up because he's going to be throwing it like a curve pitch because that's what the cool kids do. I don't know. Well, where did Ash learn to throw a ball from? I mean, if I remember the lore correctly, it wasn't his pops. I'm going to thin that finger down a little bit. I picked up a second follower today. I'm really excited about that. I never expected, I expected to get one follower. I mean, doing a video every day for a month, you expect at least one, but I never expected more than that. And my view count is climbing impressively. I just was not expecting. I like to watch makers and creators and cosplay costumers on Twitch, and that's not what I do. And I know a lot of people watch gamers and stuff on Twitch, and there's a few painters, but unlike me, they're actually good. I added Evan and Caitlin to my automatic host list a couple of days ago. And like I said, the streamers like that are actually good at what they do. And I get their view counts going up like that, but I mean, I'm just kind of making simple sketches. I'm not doing anything impressive. But thank you guys for following me. I really appreciate that. I noticed that both of those follows came after doing City of Heroes streams, so I think I'm going to do a few more of those. I did a test stream. Now my only camera in my studio right now is set up for this, so rearranging it to, and my rig is literally held together with duct tape. I am not even exaggerating. It is cardboard and duct tape. And rearranging my camera to have a view of myself while I'm playing means moving around studio light. Yes, that is singular. Means disassembling my sketch camera rig. I'm going to move that thumb down here so I'm not right in his eye. And I'm completely blanking out on how a Pokeball looks. I've been playing Pokemon Go since it came out. And I've never really paid attention to the balls. I just know if I can't catch it with a couple of the red ones, I throw the blue one. I don't really do a lot of strategy. One of the first DIY videos I ever watched. And like I said, I've never really been that big into Pokemon, but one of the very first DIY make-it-yourself prop videos I watched was a guy making Pokeballs. And I followed YouTube DIYers for a very long time before I realized I could subscribe. that was one of those epiphany moments that I kind of went, oh, duh. What is wrong with me? But yeah, I just started subscribing to channels about 2 or 3 years ago. Before that, I never subscribed to channels. I didn't understand. Well, first of all, I didn't understand the importance of subscribing as far as supporting the channels that I watch. I thought my views were sufficient, and I didn't want my email blowing up with unnecessary notifications. So a couple of years ago, I found out how to, and I've had my YouTube channel, by the way, since 2011. So I'm not exactly new to YouTube. I had just never really explored it that deeply. I created my channel in 2011 so I would have a place to put my animation portfolio. And I have since removed my portfolio from this channel. I renamed this channel to RamDragon's Art Studio. Before that, it was called RamDragon. Just RamDragon. It was just a username that I used for my channel. And for years, that was it. That was the extent of my use. But when I decided I wanted to get back into animating and do some real serious animations, I renamed the channel and I took all my portfolio off of it and I relocated it to a second channel that is just my professional name. But all of that portfolio stuff, I've got some 2D animations and some 3D models that I did. They are all from like 2010. They're not recent. There we go. And I still think that looks more like Goku than Ash. I think it's because when I brought the jawline up, I made him look more adult. Ash has a very, very squat, proportioned face. Let's try that. Let's bring this jawline. No, it's still in the right place. It's just below his ears. Let's bring the chin up. Let's bring the chin up to here. That's much better. Oh wow, that made all the difference in the world, didn't it? All right. Let's throw in some shading. I want his hat to throw some shade on him. Get a little bit of a thumb bulge here from gripping the ball too tight. This way. Yeah. And I'm just trying to put in some really simple shade guides here. And I'm thinking I'm going to start with brush pen today. I know I don't usually. I need a pen with a little more force feedback like my Wacom tablet has. I'm not taking a lot of liberties here. I'm just taking a few in how some of these more geometric shapes curve. I think more curvy shapes look more organic than what gets represented in anime a lot. Especially some of the ones that try to recreate the styles that were popular back in the 80s and the 90s. Very, very angular, lots of triangles, lots of sharp, pointy features. And I think there's a lot to be said for shape language. And in regards to anime particularly, we get a lot of, especially the stuff from the 80s and 90s, you get a lot of them that had absolutely no concept of shape language. And when you're creating a protagonist that is all triangles and sharp edges, it's really hard to sympathize with that character. On the same note, Inuyasha, when every one of your characters is round featured, it's hard to take any of them very seriously. And it's kind of a shame. I like the art from shows like Evangelion. The art was really good, but man, what a absolutely one-note story. I know I'm going to tick off a lot of people by saying that, but I really found Evangelion to be absolutely a complete yawn fest from beginning to end. And yes, I did watch the whole thing. I was kind of forced to. The first time I went to college, I joined the anime club. And the anime club pretty much existed to watch Evangelion. So yeah, I've been exposed. I've watched it. I was not impressed. And I know saying something like that while talking about Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z might seem a little hypocritical, but Toriyama really understood shape language. I mean, you can look at the old Dragon Warrior series, the original Final Fantasies. Chrono Trigger. There's a couple of video games that he worked on. Original Dragon Ball. Obviously original Dragon Ball. But you can see in the creation of his monsters and his creatures, he could make his Frankenstein one from the Dragon Ball series comes to mind. He could make a terrifying opponent come across as you knew he was going to be a good guy at some point. And vice versa. You can have very basically good guys who are just prickly characters. Tien is a great example. Tien is all sharp angles and triangles. You could do a whole shape theory thesis just on Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. And yes, I am intentionally saving the face for last. I want to make sure I'm good and warmed up before I start doing those details. Another good example of shape theory is Pokemon. You can take any of the Pokemon silhouettes and, with very few exceptions, know exactly what that Pokemon is. And some of them you can even tell what type they would be just from the shadow, just from the silhouette. Yeah, shaky hand. Yeah. I'm now to the point where I'm doing the opposite of getting warm. I'm starting to get more and more shaky. I've got to hold my pen a little bit softer. I'm holding it way up right now so I'm kind of suspending my knuckles right over the center of the ball. Come on. So I can get a good round shape there. But my shakiness is getting to me. Yeah. I'm getting more shaky, not less shaky. Like I've been saying, leading up to this Inktober exercise, I haven't really done a lot of drawings in the last few years. I've been dealing with a little bit of arthritis and carpal tunnel and a host of other things, and then found out that none of that was actually what was going on. It was all muscular damage that needed to be rehabilitated. So, while trying to take it easy to maintain use of my hand for a longer period of time, I just haven't been drawing the last few years because I've had no stamina for it. So now, I'm kind of in a area where I don't want to say I overcame a handicap, but I really feel like I did. Because it wasn't in my head. It was a very real damage that had been going on. Something I had done to myself. It wasn't like the result of an accident or anything tragic like that. It was work-related, cumulative muscular and tendon injuries from overwork. And then once I found out what they were and what was going on, I was able to do some very simple exercises to relieve what was causing the damage and go in and actually allow my body to repair that damage once I was aware of it. I'm already off of my line there. I want to be very careful with this curve. Otherwise the hat will look frumpy rather than snappy like in the cartoon. Yeah, I boned that up pretty bad. And now that I'm holding my pen lighter, I'm starting to shake less. I think I was getting too, I don't even know what. There's a word to go there, I don't know what the word is. Too anxious about my line, I guess. Which was causing me to grip my pen too tight. Oh boy. Yep, I've missed that line entirely. The only thing to do is go and own it, so. Yeah, we're getting there. And I'm going to switch pens for this last little bit. I want to get a pen that fills in more ink. Pardon me. Yeah, this pen's definitely losing ink. One more thing I gotta look up. I can't remember if that's black or gray. It looks like it's gray, but seem to recall that band being black. Now that I'm looking at some more references, I don't think it ever was. It's just a dark gray. So I'm not going to fill that in. I'm just going to keep plugging away at his hair plugs. There we go. I almost forgot this one right here. The other brush has a much more beat up tip, so it makes a more round mark. But it also spreads out a lot more and is much more difficult to control for fine points. That's why I didn't go quite up to the edge of these, and I left space to touch up with this finer brush. But now we're there. We're just about touched up. There we go. Looking over it one last time before I start erasing things. Actually, I don't want to erase things quite yet, because while I'm aware this is an anime and is a manga, I think I'm going to add in some cross-hatching. Nah, maybe not. I'd really like to. I'd really like to, but it just doesn't fit. I can't justify it. I can't. Let's go ahead and erase. Get the pencil marks out. I know you can't see most of the pencil marks in the overhead camera. I set my camera settings really quickly when I started the stream, because they had gone all wonky again. But hopefully they'll well, I can't say hopefully they'll stay. I really don't think they will. They haven't been. There's no reason why it would change. And I'm pretty sure it's in the firmware of the camera that is causing the default to reassert regardless of where I set the brightness and contrast settings. Basically what I'm doing is I'm going in and I'm setting the contrast and brightness, and then when I come back to the camera, it has lost its setting, but when I open up the settings menu, it hasn't moved. So there's something in the firmware of the camera that's causing it to default without changing its defaults in the menu. Here we go. Ash Ketchum. Gotta catch 'em all. Thank you for joining me for this episode of RamDragon's Art Studio, where our theme today was Catch. I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow.